Hey guys, it's Ellen here, and today we're going to be making some coastal bookmarks. I go over this step by step. It's a little bit intermediate. I wouldn't say super easy for a beginner, but I'm sure a beginner can give this a try and totally do this. If you're a Patreon member, you can download the traceable. If you have any questions, please leave in the comment section. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And please hit the bell notification button to know when my tutorial is up. And if you don't know about Patreon, it's a place people can go and get traceables, ad-free videos, exclusive tutorials on Thursdays, and live stream once a month on the top tier. You can check it out when the thing comes up here, boop, in a second. But anyway, let's get painting some bookmarks. All right, let's go over supplies for this tutorial. I have a 6x6, well, it's a little bit bigger than a 6x6 inch piece of 100% cotton cold pressed paper from March. See, I have like a little extra, like 1/4 edge, and I just taped it down. If you didn't tape it down, if you didn't do it 6x6, maybe make it a little bit bigger, and paint it a little bit bigger and then cut it down later, which I'm doing. So it's a little bit bigger. I could say 6 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I taped it down. I have traced on my paper my design, so basically making a line about 3/4 way down across where we have the sky and then we have the ocean, and then here we're going to do the land. I'm going to have some shells in the front with some sand covering them, and then some grasses back here. Like I said, if you're a Patreon member, you can download the traceable, but I'm pretty sure if you're really good at drawing some shells, I've gone over drawing shells. Many of my tutorials, I'll kind of link them in there. I have some shell tutorials. So basically, you're going to have the shells in the front, like a scallop shell. This doesn't want to work. I'll draw it. So, my goodness. You have your scallop shell, but you're going to draw sand in front of it. So you're going to have like the scallop shell, and then you're going to erase the edge because you're going to paint sand in front of it. Same thing with like a nice shell like that, and you're going to put the sand in front of it, and you're going to paint the sand. And then we're just going to put grasses and whatnot. So also you'll need your paints, which I'll go over as I paint them. Paper towel, water jars, hole punch. I'm going to use an exacto blade or a blade, whatever you have, to cut the strips for the bookmarks, and a good ruler to help you do that. I have a metal ruler. Actually, a metal ruler is great to cut with. A plastic one, you end up cutting the plastic. And for my ties, you can use whatever ribbon you want. I'm going to use this rope because it's kind of cool for got that beachy kind of theme. I actually had it's all twisted and turned here, and then I just kind of untwisted it. So do whatever you want. It can be any color you want, whatever you feel like. So we're going to start by painting the sky and then the ocean, and then going in and doing the grasses and then the shells. So it's a fair big size area, so you can use whatever big brush you have. I'll just grab let's see what I'm going to grab when I make bigger brushes. So grab whatever big brush you have. You don't have to follow the same brushes that I have. I'm going to use my Princeton 12 round Neptune brush. For the rest of it, most likely using my Princeton 8 and my Princeton 4 Velvet Touch Series brush for the details and the shells and the starfish. So I'm going to get some water on my brush. Now the skies can be whatever color you want. I'm going to be working with ultramarine blue, which I have right here. Water some of that down. And I'm going to add that over here and add some quinachradone magenta with a little purple kind of color tone. Pinkish purple. Oops. Get the magenta again. A little too purple. So you mix up some colors that you want for your sky. I liked ultramarine blue for the sky and this one. And I have a little black tones here. I can mix some of that in for like a purple gray. See, you got the tint color here. All right. So we can do wet on wet or wet on dry. I'm going to work wet on dry. Got the ultramarine. Just putting that in. I'll grab some water on my brush and I'll grab that purple color. And I'll grab some ultramarine again. And some of that gray color. Just kind of fill that in. Just grab some magenta. It's concentrated, so I'm going to grab some water and kind of push that color around. So just going right across there. Go ahead and add some more magenta. And ultramarine up in here. Get a little more concentrated. Now I don't have clouds, but we can make them by removing paint either with a paper towel. Add a little this black tint here. This little grayish tint here. A little stormy sky. Now you can make your sky brighter. It doesn't have to be my sky. Make whatever kind of sky you want. Mine's getting a little dark. I might remove it with some clouds. Playing around with the color here. Because I can. That pinky kind of tone. Purple. Voila. That's the sky. Now, many times we talk about removing it with paper towel, but if we try moving it with a dry brush, I'm going to get like a thicker dry brush. Whatever dry brush you have. I just got some moppy brush. See, you kind of just lift it, twist it, lift it, tap it on the paper towel, twist it. And the color will fold back into the white area, so it'll look a little more natural. See? I'll do another one over here. And just kind of move it around like that. I can do some small ones up here. Get a smaller brush like the Velvet Touch Series brush. And kind of do some small skinny ones kind of out here. See how fun that is? Just removing the white. And get really, just grab some more in the center, like, and then less on the edges, so it looks a little more natural. And that's your sky. Just that simple. Voila! And then, of course, we're going to paint the ocean. I would wait till this part dries a little bit before you head on in over there, because it will bleed right into it, and then you'll be sad that you messed that up, right? And of course, that's going to be blues. I'd make them a little bit different tones than the sky, so they differentiate between the two. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to start painting the ocean. All right, so we're going to paint the ocean, but we're going to watch out over here with the grasses, right? I'm going to leave some space for them. I'm going to keep it a little bit lighter here. I'm going to go back in, we can add color. So I think I'll stick with the ultramarine, but I'm going to add some Prussian blue. Ooh, and a little bit of this tint kind of color. Let's see what we got. Maybe a little too intense. A little more tint color. Now, if you have a scrap, I have several scraps lying around. Here we go. A little skinny scrap. You can just play around with the color, see if you like it. Maybe more ultramarine. Right? Or maybe tone that down a little bit. Yeah. I did think I wanted the Prussian blue, but I'm not. I'm adding a little of this magenta and this tint in here. Let's see what we got here. Okay. I think I'm liking that. Don't be afraid to like turn your paper too, so it's easy for you to manipulate. So I'm going to take that color that I have, water it down, and I'm going to go across. I'm going to leave some white spaces too. I've got the Princeton 8 long round, a little more control with this brush. Although I sketched out, you see the sailboats. I'm going to go right over it, and you can always fix that later. And a little tint, a little darker. I'm going to water this down and just go back and forth. I'm going to leave some white spots. Add a little more water again. See, leaving the white. You can get darker in the back, lighter in the front. See, let's go like that. Gonna get really light. I'm adding more water to my brush. Watering this down. That way I can paint over the grass part, and I can always just go back in and fix it. But I can't do that in the beginning. So I'm just doing the water area. Pretty light right now. And a little bit darker in the back, as you see. No. And we'll go back and fix that. So we got that area kind of down now. Voila. Looking pretty already, right? Now we're going to work on our grass and our shells and this sand part. So sand, basically I'm going to grab some burnt umber and some cadmium yellow deep. Make like a nice yellowish golden sand color. By the way, we can have some fun with this. We could add some gold paint to it, make it a little sparkly. So I've got this nice yellowish beige color, and we're gonna also mix up some. The grass will be greens, and we'll have some where the sand is, the blue tones, the purple tones. The shells be more on the blue, or for the starfish, a little on the orange side. So I'll mix some yellow, cadmium yellow deep, and magenta to make a nice orange. You can make it bright. Don't have to worry about making it too dark. So I got some nice. If I use brilliant orange, it's going to be really, really bright. I want it like more natural looking orange. So I mix the red, which is magenta, with the yellow to make a more natural looking orange. I'll water this down a little bit. Okay. So now I'm just going to fill in my little starfish. And then orange tone. So it's orange, but it's not that bright, brilliant one that I have. Just going to fill that in on both starfishes. And the other shells, I've got a clam shell here. Obviously, I'm making blues tones. The scallop shell, same thing, especially on the ridges. But you can get creative. You don't have to keep it the way I'm doing it. You can add a little more fun to it, a little color. So again, like I said, the starfishes, maybe make them more turquoisey in tone. So I have my peacock blue. Can add a little ultramarine to that. Just like a little different color tone for this stuff. And I would zoom in. Just on the ridges of the scallop, kind of put that color in. Grab a little water on your brush. Kind of push it around on the edges. Kind of like you're drawing in what you just drew in for tracing. See? Going right over the lines. My little scallops are messed up a little bit here. Then we have that part, and then this part will be buried. So now we have the lines. We can take the paint and push it around a little bit on each line, just like this. You're overemphasizing each little scallop edge. You can fill it in a little bit too. This one over here could be multicolored, like oranges and blues, whatever you want to do. I mean, the clam is more of a blue-gray, so I have that ultramarine mixed with the tint. So I'll do like more of a blue-gray. I'll put the color in, and then I'll kind of take some water and push it around. Add a little more gray. Actually, it's more gray. I'm gonna add a little more black gray. Mine's a little bluish. Trying to remove the paint. Can be bluish gray, gray. So I'm just gonna push that color around a little bit. Remember to keep that little half area where the sand is gonna be. It's kind of filling it in. This is the clam. You don't have to put a clam. You can do a sand dollar. You can do whatever you want. I'm removing some of the paint. It's a little too dark. Okay. We've got this other one down here. Any color you want. I think I'll do blues and greens. Just kind of play around with that. A little curly cue. Adding some color. Just filling that in. Again, the sand's going to cover that part, so just filling this in with some blue. We can go back in a little bit and add little lines. I'm going to put some darker color here. So I'm just kind of bleeding that color. As you can see, I'll take it and I'll tap my paper towel every now and then to get off the excess paint. It's good. It's good to have that close by. So I'm just kind of filling that in right now. So now that that's dry, we can go back in and add some tones to that starfish. It dry pretty light. Go back in with the color again. And I would just kind of put it on the edges like this. You don't have to do this. Just to kind of oomph the starfish out. Okay. If it helps to use a small brush, I might go switch to my 4. So like the scallop, I'm going to go in and grab some peacock blue, a little tint, and just go in and get a little bit darker on the details, on the edges, with watercolor, but very minimal amount of water. So you have really good control. Just like that. Adding some darker tones. It's almost like you're drawing it in. I'm just going to fill this part in. The sand is going to be covering over it. And this guy, same thing. You can go in and add some deeper tones. I might do little stripes. Just like that. Playing around with the little squirrely squirrel. You can add some dots to it. Just playing around with this. I'm adding in some deeper color tones in this section here. And then with the starfish too, you can add like a little orangey brown. You're going to have the little marks in the center. You can make them brighter or darker. I did the orangey brown, but I'm actually going to add red instead. A little doot marks. It's like a little circle. Then you could do the little spikes if you want to do that. But you might want to wait to the spikes because we're going to do the sand. This one got a little messed up. I'll just lift that up. Boop. Like it never happened. Okay, so let's do the sand. We'll come back and do the finer details. So we've got this sand and grass tones. We're gonna have to mix up some greens. We're gonna be doing the grasses with some roses. So I mixed the peacock blue with some yellow. We got this nice bright green. You want a darker green, grab some Prussian blue, yellow, maybe a little burnt umber too, really dark. Okay, so for the sand, it's going to be multiple colors, right? We got that color, we mixed up that yellowish, yellow with the burnt umber. I might add a little teeny bit of black tint to it. Water that sucker down. Okay, so we're just gonna put some sand in here. Just kind of push it around. If it seems a little too yellowish, you can add more gray or black tint to it. I'm just gonna push this around here. See, sand on top of the shells. I'm leaving white on the bottom here. Do a little sand here. And I'm going to put this color. I'm going to have a lot of colors going out here where the sand's supposed to be. See, hear that clanking? I'm adding water to this. Just kind of pushing this around, like so. Getting it really light. Back in here. La 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 la. Just push that color around. A little bit around here. We're going to start adding some grays and blues. Just like this. Okay, so now we can take we have like a magenta with the blue ultramarine and get some purples, and we have the ultramarine color here. What we're going to do is add a little purple tones in here, a little blue also, and our greens. We're going to start doing our grasses. So it might be a little too bright. I'm going to add some more peacock blue and a little bit of umber. So really, you can use this brush, the 8 or the 4. Just gonna kind of bleed in some green here. You can take your brush and just wisp out some grasses on the corner on this one. You like that? And up in here. A little concentrate. I'm adding it just a little bit more water. So you kind of go like this. Right? And we're going to kind of bleed some green down here. And a little over in here. See, I've got a wet, bleeding kind of green going. And here. There's a fence here I put here. We're just going to tap, 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 and then take some color. It's kind of wet over here and bleed it. And we've got some grass up in here. You can add some of the darker color here, darker green. Some browns. So I'm going to just bleed some dark color green in here. So it looks like little grass mounds. You know, we'll put little beach roses there. It's still just kind of bleeding. You can add some more beige with a little orange tint. Going back in here for the sand. If you want to add a little gray tones, purple blue tones, just like that. The purple tones looks like the shadows, right? So here I have a fence. I put a fence in here, and it's going to have to wait till this other stuff dries. In the meantime, I'm going to add a little more sand color, kind of back here, maybe in the orange tones. And since the fence is a gray color, it doesn't matter, I can paint right over that. And a little pink. It's kind of bleeding. Dot, dot, dot. Over here, Again, we're going to play around with just adding some blues, kind of bleeding here with the grass. Careful around the shell. Get that ultramarine. Just bleeding in some blue. If that's too bright, obviously, just wipe some of that away. It's like a walkway going towards the beach. And then we can add the sand. Okay. So the sand here, we can go add a little bit darker tone. The mounds, right? Covering the shells. And then bleed the paint by adding some water and just kind of pushing it around down here. Just push that sand around. Show who's boss. Put a little pink kind of tones here. I grabbed some magenta, I watered it down. Just kind of pushing that color around, just brightening up the page. And then again, add some more of that sand tone color here. It's really pale around your seashells. We're going to go add some more detail and they're going to really pop. So you can add some more bluish color tone to your sand color. Kind of bleed that a little bit. Just get a little bit darker in the front. See that? Just adding a little bit of bluish gray. It's going to pop that sand color. All right, so you can, again, still put some more grasses coming this way with your brush. Lifting up. They'll bleed on the bottom part because it's wet here, but we'll have a nice grasses growing this way. You can use your 8 or your 4. Just kind of push it. See, I'm just kind of moving that paint around, wisping it. If you want to add some darker green, I'm going to tap in some darker green color tone. Tap, 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 tap. Because I'm going to put some beach roses over here too. Got some dark green, just tapping in. Sound effects. And then you could use some like beige kind of tones, like if you want to put some brown grasses too. See, it's a little brown. I'm mixing in some brown with the green. Don't be afraid to do that. Okay. And I'm going to add a little more bright green up and over in here. Put some down here by the shell if you want to. Now it's still really wet. You could just grab some nice pretty magenta, a little concentrated. Kind of tap it around for the beach roses because it will bleed a little bit. Or you could wait till it dries. And if that's not the right color, you know, you can always just add some red to it, but it's pretty much pink. So I'm just kind of bleeding in some this pink. And we didn't talk about putting grasses down here, but we can totally do that. We can take the green that we have and kind of wisp in some grasses here. Just like so. Boop. Mine's bleeding a little too much. Can lift that up. Okay. Just to make it a little more interesting. You can do that around the shells. You don't have to, but if you want to. All right, so we're going to let this all dry. I'm going to come back and do the fence and the details, and then we're going to cut it up for a bookmark. Okay, so now that it's dry, we're going to put in like a nice gray fence. I have this black color here. I'll just water it down, make it gray. And we're just going to put in a little fence here. Oh, that's a little too black. I want to water it down so it's nice and gray. a nice deep color gray. Just basically putting some lines down like this. Kind of curving down like it's leaning over, you know, like those old fences, they all get kind of wrecked. Just like that. Fence in the sand. This is the number 4 brush that I'm using. And then you can do like where it ties to each other with a little line connecting, like a little wire that they have with the fences. And the top and the bottom, just kind of jag it like that a little bit. Okay, so where the fence is, we can put another little one over here if you want to too. I didn't have it in my sketch, but why not? A little gray one. Add a little fence. Right? And then now you can get a little more detail with the grass because it's dry. You can go back in with the darker color and some browns and just really put in that grass. You know, like this. Let's go back in. We'll do a little shadow from the fence. I would do like a bluish purpley gray. So got my magenta, my ultramarine. Add a little tint to that. So it's like a purple gray. And you just go like this, going downward and adding the shadow. Right where the fence ends on the sand. See? Just like that. I'm gonna add a little more blue color tone. Now for the shells, for the clam, just get a nice gray, deep gray color. Do the lines going across. It still needs a little more shadow, so I would take some gray and kind of push that around on the edge. And on the bottom here where the sand is covering it. See how I did the lines first and then I just grabbed some water and just kind of pushed it around. Showed him who's boss. And I'll just bleed some of that color on the edge. Just like that. And then the other shells, can add a little more detail, get a little darker here for the scallop, right where the sand is touching it. Just emphasize a little more. Just get a little bit darker. And then this little guy down here, you can just get real detailed with the little scallop. Now you didn't have to do what I did. You can make a different shell altogether. Right? And then we talked about the the starfish. I'm going to grab some of this reddish orange, deeper tone, and do the little spikes on the outside of it. Now that everything's dry, little spikes on the edge going around the starfish. And I'd add a couple little deeper shadows too. So I'd water down your deep orange and just put a little shadow, especially where it's next to this one, this shell. And here, right next to the sand part. Just get a little bit deeper. Same thing with this one, where it's meeting the sand part, and then on the edges. So I put that color in, and I'll take my brush and I'll clean it, and I'll add some water, and I'll just kind of push it around. See how we push it around? And that will help blend it. You can control it better this way. then we're going to work on our ocean. I'm just going to go fix a little bit more deeper color here. A little shadow. For the sand part, you can get some deeper, be a little burnt umber, a little gray. You want to get a little bit deeper with your sand. So I put that dark brown here, beigey brown, and I'm just going to go ahead and put water right underneath next to it, so it stands out more. Okay, so now we're going to do the ocean. You can just use the same brush if you want, the little 4, and get some of those deeper colors and just kind of go back in and just make these lines going across, adding in the deeper ocean tones. Don't make it so, I wouldn't say liney, but kind of fill it in some spots. You don't want it all to be all these little lines. But you can go in here, water this down when it gets closer, and add in some of the blues that we're kind of missing. And then when that dries, we can go and put some sailboats in. So I'm just going to fill this in with some color. It's a little too white down here. I'm going to fill it in. You know, in the beginning we did that because we were careful not to get it near the grasses, but now we can go back in and kind of fix that. Just go ahead and make it a little bit darker back here. And just adding in a little bit of the deeper colors here and there on the front. All right, so we're gonna have to let that dry before we put the sailboat in. There's a little white line in between these two, so I'm gonna have to go back in and just really get that line gone. And add in some of the strokes. For the fence, it seems like it's kind of, you know, you can go back in and add the deeper tones if it's kind of like bleeding where you can't even see it. I'll add just a little bit darker, like almost like black on the left side, and it will stand out a little better. See that? All right, we're gonna let this dry and then we'll put in our sailboats. Okay, so that's dry. Grab the number 4. I'm gonna use a little bit of white gouache. And basically I'm just going to put this little, now I don't know where it's going to get cut off, but try and keep it, maybe you can think about 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. Let's put a little sailboat here. So it's a curvy kind of triangle, right? And put another one up here. And a little teeny one. Sailboat. You can put another one. You can put more, as many as you want. I would put like a little dark gray kind of line underneath it. If you can get it. Just a little line. And then we'll use that same dark gray and we'll make seagulls. So it's like a V. Bend and seagull 1, curvy V 2, put one up here. Hopefully he doesn't get cut off. And then you just go into all the little details. You want to do more details with your starfish, right? Like I said, you can add some deeper kind of lines here where the sand is covering the fish and the shell. I did talk about the gold paint, so we could take some gold paint and do some fun thing with that. I have like a stippling brush. I had my other thing I used for my Patreon. You take the gold paint, use an acrylics, just an old crappy acrylic brush. Go like that first on paper towel, and then go in and add some nice gold paint to the edge. Up and around here, just to give a little something something. Careful not to get it on the shells. And up around here, just to brighten it up a little bit. Voila. And like I said, you can go in, I don't see too many beach roses. My magenta's kind of died out, so I'll go in and add little round beach roses. Some of the areas that I'm missing the roses in here. Back in here. And you can kind of go around where the grasses are and add some shadows coming down this way with some purple tones and some blue tones. Don't be afraid, just to have fun with this. See, I'm adding a little blue. Get some bright green because the sun's kind of hitting it over this way. And up in here. These are just little tweaks you do at the end, you know. And like I said, you just go into the starfish and add whatever little embellishments you want to add to that. And then the clam, same thing. I'll go a little deeper with my lines after it dries. And I can add some more shadows. These are all just little tweaks you guys will have to do until you feel like, it looks good. All right. So once that's done, we're going to dry that. We're going to remove the tape if we didn't tape it down. So we'll have to cut off all the edges that we did. By the way, my sailboat's kind of dried too light, so I'll have to go back in and just add more gouache, thicker gouache, so that it you know, works out so that it looks whiter than it is. So I'm going to cut off the edges that I saved. I'm using an exacto blade. Because I didn't paint that area, I just taped it down. You have a knife, do whatever knife you have, a utility knife. Just be careful. These exacto blades can be deadly. I actually cut my finger in college. Had to go get a tetanus shot. Okay, oh, this little edge is still there. All right. All right, so then I would flip it over and do your 2-inch measurements, of course, right? So you would have 2 inches. This is how I do it. And then you cut it. If you want to use a triangle, that's how I do it, to measure it. Get the 2 lines. And let's see what happens. It's not going to be super perfect, but it's going to look good. Okay, so I'm going to cut that. Careful cutting it. Make sure you cut it slowly so you don't wreck it. Because we just painted that. All right. So we cut it. Look at this mess I made. Look at that. And it can go any way you want, right? No one knows which way it's going to go. How cool is that? And then you just take a hole punch. Let's see if I can make these even. I don't know if I can punch too. They're pretty thick, so you're going to have to punch one at a time. Punch one hole there. Right? And then you take your little rope. Just tie it off. I think the rope is kind of cool. I mean, let me get my little rope because it just kind of reminds you of beach, you know, like the rope, beachy kind of thing. If you watch HGTV, they have that beach block series right now, and they did a rope, what do you call it? Stair, like going up the stairs. They used railings that were rope, which I didn't think it was that safe, but whatever. All right, guys, I'm gonna move all this mess away. So this was how it looked in the beginning, but you can move it around any way you want. And to seal this, there's stuff called matte medium. It's a spray. You can spray it before you do all this rope stuff, so it kind of like seal in the painting, and it won't have it will bleed, you know. Or you could do something else. You could what is that word? What is those things? Those things that seal with plastic, if you want to do that. But there we go. Bookmarks. How cute is that? I guess play with the puzzle, right? It goes this way. No one's ever going to know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's a pretty long tutorial. Please like, share, and subscribe. And check out my Patreon. I have the Traceable there. And I hope you guys enjoy this. And take care. And I will speak to you soon.